Hello, welcome to the first episode in a very, very long time of Heroes of Boredom Builds, the show where we just kind of build things and walk you through how we did it. If you've been following the channel for a good minute, you know that Heroes of Boredom Builds is actually the show that kind of was our first real big video. Well, like not real big, but it was our first video posted on the channel. And it was originally more so what the channel was supposed to be angled to, and so since I got the time now, I'd like to get back to that, but it takes a little bit more time to produce the videos. But anyways, getting off topic, today we're going to be working on my Dremal Idea Builder and kind of working on the problem of using other filaments with the printer. So the other night I kind of sat down and I gathered up what we would need to do the project, and the one big thing that I was running into was a way to get the filament in there without risking it, you know, scratching up the machine or like breaking up as it rubbed against the rim. And so what I got here is actually the first real pivotal piece of the project. This tube I essentially took apart a mechanical pencil to get, and this will allow us to slide the filament in theory. I haven't tried this yet, but it will allow us to slide the filament in the back of the machine and be able to enter in and get the filament into the extruder, hopefully without incident. But we'll have to test that at the end of this video. I still have a whole spool holder to film me building, I guess. So stay tuned and we're gonna get to that, and I'll see you in a minute. Alright, so welcome back to the shop. It's the first time we've really been here for a moment. So the other night I gathered up pretty much everything that I'd need to do this build. It's in no real way a permanent solution, but it is a pretty darn good temporary one to kind of get me through and allow me to use this filament to continue printing and experimenting with the printer. So pretty much I've just got two 2x4 pieces here. And you can see on this guy, I've kind of outlined how I want to round it off. Pretty much I just took the bottom of a bottle and I just kind of traced around it. That way it'd have that nice round shape to it. I don't know if I'll do too much more to it than that. Just trim it up. And then those 2x4 pieces are just going to be mounted here to this big old hunk of wood I got. I think it'll provide a good heavy base and allow the spools to just kind of sit there and spin freely. And then to go between the two 2x4s, I have this piece of 3/4 PVC that I'm essentially just going to connect, you know, probably drill a hole through this board, and it'll go right through, and then the spools will sit right on this PVC. So that's the general idea. This little bit of hardware I have is just kind of placeholdery stuff to kind of see if I can use these to keep it keep the spool from falling off of the 2x4s. So that's the general idea and the outline of this build. So let's get started. Okay, so right here I've just kind of got the board, and like I said earlier, I've outlined, you know, pretty much like what I want it to do right there. So that's all written out on the board, and I'm pretty much just going to take my bandsaw and just kind of round out the edges. Alright, so you can see here I kind of have I have the piece that I cut out, and the bandsaw, mine particularly, is a little bit wonky. Doesn't exactly want to cut right, and so I tried to get it right with what I had. But now I think I'm going to just sand the rest of it down using my stationary sander. So let's get that set up and let's do that real quick. Okay, so I cut out the other piece, and you can see it came out a little bit more wonky. I could probably get a little bit closer to the lines than I should have been. So in order to clean up this part, what I've done is I've clamped it to the other one that I did, and I'm just going to kind of grind them down on my sander until they're pretty much both to the exact same shape. Just that way they're not asymmetrical. Like I said, this is probably just a temporary fix to my filament problem. I'm probably going to design a more elegant one later. But I still don't want this to look too much like garbage. Alright, so now we pretty much have our two sides, both, you know, within tolerance of the shape I want in them. Not exactly perfect, but, you know, like I said, this is probably just going to be a temporary solution. So pretty much we got both of them together, and we're going to connect them to this board pretty much in that configuration to allow this rod to go between cleanly. And then we'll probably trim down whatever excess and put holes in each end so that we can kind of hold them in place somehow without them popping out or something or another. So that's pretty much the next step. Alright, so right now I'm pretty much just going to mark out where I want my spool to be held. And yeah, this is not precise. I'm not really spending too much time measuring this. So this is probably just going to be just choosing a spot and going. I do have the measurement of the spool on my phone. I should probably look at that real quick. That way I'm just positive that I'm not messing up. Because pretty much the spool has to sit within such and such a range of the bottom. And that's pretty much all that matters here. So let's see, where is, I have a picture somewhere. Okay, so yeah, so there you can see I do have a picture I took with a ruler just sitting on top of my spool, just so I get these measurements on the go. And pretty much the spool is going to be about 8 inches. So it's 8 inches total. So if we're going to guess, it needs to be higher probably than about 5 inches. So if I just go ahead and I put the mark at about 7.5, that should give us more than enough clearance. So that's pretty much what I'm just going to do. So mark in 7.5 on each board. So that way we're at least consistent from the bottom. And they're about 3.5 wide, so I'm probably going to be putting it at about the 2-inch mark. I think would be about fine. I don't like that. It's going to be a little too lopsided. So okay, so you got 3.5, 2.5, no, 3.5, 1.5. It's about 1.75. So I'll do it there. I'll just make it a little bit more even. Yeah, that should be fine. So I'll just fix my holes real quick. And I'm going to be using spade bits to make the holes for this, because I don't have a drill bit quite that big to compensate for a 3/4 inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe, which is what this guy is. So I'm going to be using this spade bit. It's just an Irwin 1/18. No, 1/8. Ah. I'm going to make such a fool out of myself while making these videos. I can already tell I misspeak a lot. So yeah, we're pretty much just going to try to center that out as best we can and drill down. So I'm going to reposition the camera so we get a better look at that as I probably mess this up. And we'll be right back with that. So I just had an embarrassing moment where I totally tried talking to the camera and it wasn't even recording. I love those moments. It means I've been filming too long without a break. Anyways, so pretty much what I have here is I have the board that we're going to do this on clamped onto my table, and I'm still going to brace it also with my arm. You want it to be overhanging the table, not exactly on it, because you're not going to want to go into the table. So you're going to want to, once you break through the other side, you're going to want some hollow space there. And actually, I'm going to adjust this a little bit because I feel like it could be a little bit more on the table. But yeah, I probably don't say this enough, but when doing stuff like this, you always want to be safe. And you know, you gotta remember that anything that's powered, any tool that's powered like this guy, has the potential to kill you. So you want to treat it like such when you're working. So pretty much we're gonna be going down right there. So I'm just gonna kind of get a little start. Okay. And so now bracing it with my other hand, we're just going to carefully drill into it, and it's probably not going to be fun, but here we go. Okay, so embarrassing thing is, well, last time I used this drill was on a job site doing a side job recently after I quit to, you know, help keep the lights on. But usually when you do a job like this, you're going to want to make sure you have a fresh battery, which I don't, so I'm going to switch that out. Alright, so now I'm back with my other battery and we're going to try this again. I'm going to just pull out the debris real quick. Alright. Alright, and there we go. That's first hole done. Now hopefully I can get through the other one without this one dying. So hopefully next time you guys see me, I will have both of these set up and ready to be mounted up, and maybe cleaned up a little bit because that didn't break through all too clean. So yeah, we'll be right back. Alright, so here you pretty much have laid out what we're going for. Nothing's fastened down yet, so it's all still kind of loose. And so we're pretty much just going to slide the PVC in between these pieces of 2x4 that I have used to pretty much, you know, are going to be holding and supporting the spool above the ground. So in the last scene you saw me drill these out, and I don't know if you can tell from this distance, but pretty much right there, there's a huge divot, and this is what was the bottom side of the wood. So we were going down this way. And so as a result, when it broke through, because I was using a spade bit, it created a real deep divot here. Once again, though, not really a huge deal. I'm not going to be using this forever. It's more so just, you know, the solution that I found that's probably going to get me through for a little bit longer until I can figure out the permanent thing. Which I'm not sure if that's going to come in the form of a case modification or what, but I'm still dreaming it up. But I want to be able to use this spool to 3D print other things and keep the ball rolling so I can make other videos and, you know, pretty much create content for you, the viewer. So, but yeah, so that's the downside to using a spade bit to go through wood. I much rather would have used a Forester bit, but I don't have one. And I also, well, I have one, but it's much too big for this hole. Whereas, you know, this spade bit I had lying around is perfect. It can go through. It's not too big. You know, it's a nice fit for this piece of pipe. But yeah, like I said, I much rather would have had a Forester bit. But with my budget right now being unemployed, it wasn't really in the cards, and this is what I had laying around. So I made do, and I'm using it. And you know, like I said, I don't think it's going to be too bad of a little filament shelf. You know, at least for the temporary purpose of feeding the filament into my case for my 3D prints. But yeah, it's probably not the long-term solution. And even after this thing is done being used, I can at least put it somewhere here in my shop, and you know, put extra filament on it or what have you. Maybe use it for wire one day. You know, it's a very versatile design. Like, it can be used for a bunch of different things. It doesn't just have to be used for filament. And that's what I like about everything I build. I like it more if it can have multiple uses. If it's specialized, it's cool. You know, like I built something to be specialized. You know, I do that from time to time. But like I'd rather, if I can, get the most bang for my buck out of it in the long term. And the more broad range of use it has, the better for me. But like I said, sometimes you can't avoid it, and you have to make something specialty. So. The next step is fasten these to the base here, and then probably the final step will be securing this and cutting it down. Pretty much I just want to secure it so that at each end of the spool, well, at each end of the rod, I misuse words a lot. Sometimes when I'm filming, I'll say whatever and I'll just fucking roll with it. But yeah, so this way, I want to fasten something through the end by drilling a hole through each end of the pipe. Just that way when it comes to the end, it doesn't pull out. So I will actually have to physically remove something to actually pop it out. That way I don't have to worry about it, you know, my spools coming off of the rack mid-print or anything or shaking loose. This way it'll just be held in and it'll be good to go. So, okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm pretty much measuring the board to determine what the middle point would be and kind of figure this out mathematically. Just a heads up, if anyone wants to call me a cheater, I am using a calculator because I am not really great at doing math in my head. It's not one of the skills I've got, and like unless I'm sitting there and just doing mathematical stuff like all day long, like I will never ever just be on the fly. It's not something I'm great at. So what I'm doing right here is I've measured the length of the board, which is about 7 1/4 for our standardized American system, not metric, not anything fancy, because I'm okay with working in fractions. So 7 1/4 divided by 2 is 3.625. And so then what I'm going to do from there is, since that pretty much calculates the middle of my board, which I'm going to round and just to be, you know, on a quarterly level, I'm just going to say it's 3.75, which is 3 3/4. So I'm just going to mark it right there, and that's pretty much the middle of my board. And I'm going to do that on each side. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 1/2, which is roughly what I've got for my 2x4 pieces. And I don't think I even have to calculate these. I think I can get away with just screwing them in, just eyeballing them. Yeah, there's no reason to make this precise. I keep on wanting to measure everything just because that's what I'm used to. But as long as I can see where the notch is and kind of eyeball it, I think that we will be fine. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so there we go. One side all screwed in. Pretty good. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. It would have been hilarious if that would have broke, though. I probably wouldn't have put that in. Alright, and now we'll do the other side. Same way. Alright, so there you go. Boom. All put together. Feels quite nice. I don't think sturdiness is going to be too much of an issue because this is all construction lumber. So next thing we'll do is we'll just get a quick hole drilled there, and then we'll cut it down to size. Alright, so while there are probably better ways to do this, I don't exactly have the means to easily drill into this pipe. So this is probably going to be the more risky way, is just hand doing it. And that being said, I'm hoping I don't break the pipe. But those are both really reasonable worries. But there's, like I said, there's not a better way to go around about this. And as much as I hate it, because it's not exactly the easiest surface to drill into because of the roundness here, it makes it a little bit difficult for the drill to actually be able to bite. So actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this drill bit out. This drill bit is a size bigger than 1/4 inch, at least for what I got, which is a 7/64 bit. And so I think what I might do is I might actually use a really small drill bit real quick, just to make a quick pilot hole to hopefully help us bite in a little bit easier. So I'm thinking about a 1/8 will probably be a little bit easier to get a first hole going. So we'll just do that and we'll see how that goes. Alright, so that was relatively painless. And I think I'm going to just get a pilot on the other side real quick. And we'll use that as a guideline for when we start cutting the pipe down. But yeah, I think this is a lot easier. Last time I had to do this on a pipe, I was using not PVC. I was using electrical conduit to make a clamp stand that I have mounted to my desk in the house right now for streaming, which I have done little of. So I'm really annoyed that I spent so much work on it. But I think that's going to change soon. I might actually be trying that out this week at some point. But but yeah, so like I did that into conduit, and the conduit is much harder material, which made it much more of a pain in the ass when it came to drilling. So this is going through like butter though. So do a second one. Alright, so there we go. We got 2 holes, 2 pilot holes using an 1/8 inch bit. And now we will switch over to our 17/64. And we will then hopefully not break the pipe while widening up those other holes. Alright. That looks good. The other side, as I smash my helmet. Alright, that's actually not too bad. Got some burrs in there, but I think that's good. Oh yeah, that is pretty clean. So, next step, we're just going to cut this down real quick, and we're pretty much done. So yeah. Alright, so here we are. We built the thing. That actually might become the name of the new show. I like it. Instead of Heroes of Boredom Builds, will be Heroes of Boredom Builds a Thing. So yeah, we built it. It's here. We went from an idea in my head to a real thing, which is pretty cool. So we have the tube that I dissected the mechanical pencil for is right here. That will handle easing the filament in and out, kind of being a guide. Here is the roll of filament that I wish to use, which it looks like it's going to be just fine. It looks like it's going to have plenty of room. It's going to be suspended nice and high. So let's put it on the spool, I guess, and maybe load it up. So ideally I want it to come off of the spool and go in like this. So I'm trying to find out exactly where the spool okay, so it's right there, wrapped around, so we're just going to kind of do it like that. That should be alright. So there we go. We got the filament all ready to go. Looks like it'll spin nicely. So let's take a minute and let's power this guy up and load the filament in and do a test print, I guess. and I'll get back to you once that's underway. Okay, so as that sound indicated, the filament is pretty much ready to be switched out. So all I gotta do is press down on the extruder release and pull up on the filament, and it should come right out. Okay. So there is the filament that is in there. Got kind of a bit of a melty tip, and that spool is going to stay in there, and I'm just going to kind of reel it back so that it's just sticking out a little of the guidance tube, and we're going to get the new filament ready to load here in a minute. So we are going to pretty much just feed this through and get it ready to go to the extruder. Alright, so now it's in there and we're going to load it up. Okay, so the loading process is similar to the unloading process, where I'm going to have to take and wait a second for it to heat back up. Alright, so that little noise let us know that the extruder is ready for the insertion. So we're just going to use the command touchpad right here and just kind of start feeding it in. Okay, and so once your filament is loaded in, it will essentially purge what's remaining of the last filament that you use, which in my case was a gray. And I'm not sure if you can see it too well from this distance, but it gradually fades into white. And once it comes out purely the color of what you're using now, you know that your filament is pretty much good. Like, the load is successful, and it's ready to go. So I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get a file, and I am going to do a test print in the new filament to make sure that this filament is working just fine with the printer and there's no real big issues. Dremel claims that their filament is the best, but I have a feeling that this print is going to work out just fine. It loaded up just fine, so there's no real reason to believe otherwise. So we're going to do a test just to make sure, and I think we'll come back after that test is complete. Alright, so I ran a 3D print just to test to make sure things are alright, and it came out alright despite once popping off the bed. So this is my failed print, and this is the one I actually completed. I'm actually surprised that this completed this well because I did not use supports, and as you can see, the inside is rather hollow, but because of the way it kind of adds everything in a goofy asymmetrical way, I guess it all sorted out alright in the end. So this, in case you've guessed it, is the ear to an Iron Man helmet, which I hope to possibly have somewhere near a decent state before ASIN, which is this coming up weekend. So that's something I probably won't film, would like to, but probably won't. But that's what this part's for, and you might have noticed it earlier on my bench while I was working on the PLA stand. So all in all, everything works okay. The way I've been feeding it through the back seems to be, you know, just fine. Like, it doesn't seem to have any real big issues with it. I may revisit it eventually, depending on, you know, further data I gather from this whole thing. It seems like it might be pushing down a little bit on the extruder and causing some pressure on the bed because of the angle at which it has to be pulled up and then brought down into the extruder head. So I'm not quite sure on that. I'll have to, you know, mess around with it more to know. But as of the moment, it works. It takes the 1.75 PLA just fine from the spool in the back. So I'm happy, and I built what I set out to build. So yeah, that's, I guess, it for me. If you guys want more of these videos, be sure to subscribe and maybe leave some comments down below on what you guys would like to see me make. You know, things you guys want to see built, ideas you guys might have. You know, I'm free right now to tackle these things. So yeah, go ahead. down below, and you know, hit that subscribe button if you guys like what you see. I'll be doing more of these videos, and you know, give us a thumbs up. That always helps. And I'll see you guys next time.